Great chiropractors and physical therapists are under constant pressure of declining insurance reimbursements and long hours. But did you know there's a way to double your profit without working more? By building a gym onto your practice, you can earn more income, stabilize your business, and be a hero to your family, patients, and team. It's a big undertaking with a huge reward. Dr. Josh Satterley has done it, changed his life, and now wants to help you do the same. Welcome to Clinic Gym Radio.
Hey, Ken. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Josh. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. For those of you listening, I'm on with Ken Reinig. Did I say that correctly, Ken?
That's correct.
Yeah, and Ken is he's many things to many people, but I know him as the guy that helped us find the right kind of insurance for our gym and clinic. And so people call you the insurance guy, right, Ken?
That's correct.
Yeah. And how long have you been doing insurance for gyms and whatnot?
I've been specializing in the health and fitness space for about 28 years.
Now, I met Ken because you were at a Tom Plummer event, right? And how long you known that crazy character?
For about the same period of time. I was on his very first tour, and that was about 27 years ago.
Wow. Now, how the hell did you guys hook up?
We worked for the same company, American Service Finance, and they created an entity called the National Health Club Association. They made Tom Plummer the director of that association. And then they searched me out because I was starting to specialize in insurance for the health club industry, and met them at a club industry show in Chicago back in the day. And they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I started working with Tom in the National Health Club Association back in 1991.
Wow. That's long before this little tiny gym revolution happened, huh?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, the reason I wanted Ken on today is I get a lot of questions about what kind of insurance should I have and whatnot. And I just thought I'd hear it from the horse's mouth because, as you know, Ken, we're encouraging clinicians, chiropractors, physical therapists, whatnot, to start a gym attached to their clinic. And I know it brings up some interesting business situations, and you certainly have helped us out. But since you have all this experience with gyms and whatnot, I'd like to have you kind of take people through just the basics of the insurance game for this size industry. Sound good?
Sure. Sounds good.
Now, so that we can just get to the meat and potatoes here, let me ask you this. If I have a gym attached to my clinic, very basic, before I have any employees or anything, what are some basic insurances I should have?
Well, if you already have a clinic, you typically have general liability and professional liability associated with that profession. And
so this would be like my malpractice insurance as a provider. Okay.
That is correct. But as part of the insuring agreement with those contracts, everyone that I've ever looked at excludes the exposures associated with health and fitness, believe it or not, even though you are engaged in that as a profession for the most part. They will not insure a health club or personal training services in addition to the chiropractic or physical therapist, any of those kind of policies.
So what they're saying is it's fine if you treat people one-on-one, but don't get cute and try and have healthy classes and groups of people working out, right? It's all direct contact usually.
Exactly. And then that also goes toward your employees because they're going to be working with the health and fitness side of the business that your professional liability insurance has no intention of covering. So what we end up recommending is that you set up two separate companies because it's really two separate type of modalities and two separate types of exposures. So by setting up a separate LLC or corporation for the health and fitness side, you can just attack only those exposures and neither the twain shall meet. So both insurance companies have you protected on both sides of your business. The only overlapping coverage that could be available is if you've signed a lease in one entity that that has both components as part of it. But the general liability underwriters understand that, and they can do a workaround and charge their insurance premiums based only on the exposures that the health and fitness side does.
Okay, so if I have a 5,000 square foot facility and roughly 3,000 of it is gym and 2,000 is a clinic, we can set it up so the general liability policy on the gym covers that area and the clinic has its own. And like you said, never shall the two meet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
And even though the clients may be entering in the same front door and they be, mixing and matching their services, when it comes down to somebody getting injured or somebody pulling a claim, you got to know exactly which one's covered and how, right?
That's correct. And the nice thing about the health and fitness side of it, at least in the companies I represent, is we can have our carriers name your other business as additional insured for those types of exposures. So if someone slips and falls and you can't really tell, well, they came in for a chiropractic appointment or they were going to go work out, it doesn't matter. The insurance company will step in and protect you and the other entity on those types of claims.
Yeah. Now, so for those listening real quick, when Ken says they'll step in and represent you, what that means is if somebody says, oh, I got hurt when you were giving me this or training me to do that. We had a woman, I still can't believe this to this day, Ken, but she was doing pull-ups and then at the top of her pull-up, she gets her chin over the bar, she just lets go. And her body's kind of at an angle. She falls back and whacks herself on the floor, right? Now, an hour before, she'd been in my office as a patient, and I had sent her out for rehab, and this was part of her rehab and training. So she pulls a claim against us and says, oh, yeah, I was injured by both sides of the house, right?
Right. And
so when Ken's saying that they represent you and all this, what that means is you get to call an attorney and say, hey, this lady's claiming that we hurt her, blah, 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 and they send an attorney out to defend for you, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's great because you don't have to fight the fight. You just hire some, you just say, oh yeah, all those payments I paid, bring an attorney. And they go, no problem.
Yep. Yeah. And it typically starts off with just claims adjusters and long before real attorneys get involved because of the cost involved. But typically if they're going to find an ambulance chaser and blame you, ultimately that's where you're going to end up. So it goes beyond just claims adjusting to actual litigation, depositions, all that stuff. So,
yeah. Okay. So you have the general liability that covers both sides of the house. You want to have that in place. This is in addition to your professional liability, aka malpractice insurance, right?
Right. That's correct.
And general liability is somebody slips and falls in your bathroom or hits their head on as they're bending over to pick a pen up off the ground, stupid stuff like that, right?
Right. Or if equipment malfunctions, that's not a professional liability exposure. That is premises related as well. So that would fall under the general liability policy.
So any equipment I have in my building would be covered by that.
That's correct.
Great. Okay. And then since I'm doing, workout classes and whatnot, I'm having a coach lead them. What other insurances should I have to make sure I'm safe?
Well, workers' comp, number one, we highly discourage relationships where you're using independent contractors because it's very difficult to pass the litmus test of what a true independent contractor is. So if you're hiring personal trainers, hire them, make them employees. That way you have control over them. You are paying them. They're not paying you. And you just get rid of that whole gray area between the feds and the workers' comp division and all that. So just set it up properly, put everybody on payroll, and that's number one.
Now let's dive real quick into that because I want to illustrate that point. Let me tell you a little story. I have a friend who has 6 massage therapists working for him. They're all independent contractors. They use his facility. They book their own appointments. They rebook, and then he gets paid a percentage like commission, right? And in his mind, hey, it's an independent contractor, right?
Right.
3 years after this woman's been an independent contractor, he and the two of them, my friend and this massage therapist, get in an argument about hours and when she can use the space. And she was here first, so she can't use the space here. So she ends up leaving in a huff. About 2 weeks later, he gets a letter from the state labor board saying, so-and-so has filed a claim that although you had her listed as an independent contractor, she's been an employee this whole time. And he says, well, that's not true. And they say, well, we think it is. And, oh, by the way, you owe us some money for, it was an employment tax and all that. Now, after 3 years of her working there as a massage therapist, that wasn't like a $500 check he had to write.
Right.
It was a pretty hefty amount. And here, he basically helped her build her own business over 3 years. She ends up leaving and she goes, oh, well, I'm going to screw you at this time. Now, had she been an employee that whole time and they left on bad terms, that would have been the end of the conversation. But unfortunately.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm sure you hear this stuff all the time.
I do. But like in the area of massage therapists, I think you can set it up as an independent contractor relationship, but it's got to be in writing. It's got to be a rental agreement. It really commingling of funds is probably what caught him. That she was compensated through the business rather than her paying him a set amount for rental space. So if you don't have all that in writing, you're right. You got to make them employees and bite the bullet. You're going to have to pay the workers' comp on them.
Now, the upside is when you have employees, you can really build that team environment. And that's really what's going to supercharge your business anyway. So, don't phrase it as independent contractors. It's just not a good situation. And you can't dictate when they show up or what they wear, which are two big things you want to do in your training gym.
Right.
And so it's just a better situation. Hook them up as employees. So now that I have employees, you're saying that I need to have work comp insurance on all those employees, correct?
Correct. And as the owner, if you own 10% or more of the business, you can elect to choose not to carry workers' comp if you have good health insurance on yourself. So all the owners and officers have the ability to exclude themselves. New Jersey is an exception that if you're set up as a corporation, you have no choice. You have to include yourself. But for the most part, in all the other states, Texas is a little weird. Florida is a little weird. But, your listeners can always call me.
Yeah. As a state, Florida is very weird. But in the world of workers' comp, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. For instance, you're not required to carry workers' comp until you get to 5 employees in Florida. But you're still responsible if they get hurt on the job. So to say, well, I don't have to carry workers' comp, that's true, but you still got to be responsible for them if they screw up and hurt themselves. Yeah,
you just have to have a big, deep credit card that can handle a big-ass charge when they do get hurt, right?
That's right. That's right. So for our purposes, everybody needs to be an employee. Everybody needs to be covered under workers' comp, except for the owners. They can elect not to.
Okay. Now, in a lot of gyms, you have a lot of, part-time trainers that are working, say, 10 hours a week. They just come in a few days a week to coach classes. Am I going to pay the same amount of work comp for them as I would, somebody that's a full-time employee?
No, because it's based on the amount of payroll. So,
okay, perfect.
Yep. So it is proportionate. It is fair.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so I have that. And obviously that's something you guys can help get people hooked up with, right?
Right.
Okay. And then is there anything special about the fact that they're teaching fitness or, how's it classified as far as industries? I mean, it's not underwater welding or something like that. Very dangerous, right?
Right. But that's a very good point. You should be dealing with an agent or at least a company that specializes in this space because there are professional liability exposures that you have for training. You're making recommendations on proper lifting techniques, exercise, even people's diet and nutrition. And these are all things that are generally excluded under a general liability policy that you would get through like a State Farm agent or your farmer's agent. They say, oh, yeah, I can cover that space. But there's so many exclusions in those forms. You're really not, all you're buying is premises slip and fall coverage. That's it.
Now
so you got to be careful.
This is why we are calling Ken right now. This is it right here. Because can you tell some horror stories of things you heard about that were, I get my local buddy I go to, play softball with in the church league is a State Farm rep. So I get a policy through them. And then can you tell us some things that were not covered that people found out the hard way?
Well, yeah, I just kind of alluded to it right away. I had a client that was with American Family, and they ended up coming to me because they did have a claim. One of their trainers was working with somebody, and the person lost their balance while they were on a BOSU ball, fell back and fractured a wrist. The American Family Company had an exclusion in their policy for any injuries, any medical payments in the course of athletic participation. Well, in the gym, that's what it is.
Right.
Everything you do is athletic participation, either one-on-one or in small group. So they denied the claim. It turned out to be something that they were able to settle out of court. He still had to pay about $12,000 out of his own pocket, but then he ended up coming to us. And
wow.
Again, it's a no-brainer. That's absolutely something that's covered under our policy and several of my competitors as well. So,
okay. Well, forget your competitors. We don't care about them, Ken. You're the guy that helped me out, so screw them. I want you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate that.
So, and any other things? Now, you said like nutrition coaching, and it never occurred to me that might bring up some sticky situations. Have you seen some claims that went awry in that arena?
Very few. I mean, I could count them on one hand, but
because even though the people get the advice, they never actually implement it, so there's no danger, huh?
Yeah, usually that's the case. But where we've seen some strange claims is when you're recommending some very high potent stuff that you get on the top shelf at the GNC, and your trainer actually goes over and helps the person pick out supplements without really knowing anything about it.
What? That has never happened in the supplement space, Ken. I can't believe you're saying that. But so that person goes home and gets sick or has an adverse reaction.
Exactly.
And they're basically saying, you as a professional recommended this, so I believed you because you have knowledge, and now you're liable, huh?
Yep. Now you're liable. So.
Wow. Okay. Now, is there any along those lines? If I have a policy with you, I have a gym, my gym is covered and my trainers are covered, and I decide to start adding, a juice bar or smoothies or something like that, and somebody does get sick, is that covered in the general liability, or how's that covered?
It is. It is absolutely covered, but you do have to disclose that to your company. So,
meaning Ken needs to know that you have a juice bar and that you're slinging smoothies left and right.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we need to know if you're doing any private labeling. So if you've come up with your own formula and you now call it Josh's Juice, and you've done the formulation, you need to let your insurance company know that, because now you're, in essence, fall under the guidelines of product liability. So,
interesting.
Most of the time they're innocuous and they're just ingredients, of course, that can be bought anywhere. But people in the past, back in the old ephedra days, where they were juicing up their juice with ingredients that the insurance company had no intention of covering, and then you can get in trouble that way. So it's just all comes down to the disclosure at application time. Unfortunately, that's the only painful part of doing business with us, is you got to take about a half an hour to answer a questionnaire. And we have staff that's all they do. This is all my company does, is health and fitness all day long. I don't even insure my own home and automobiles. All I insure is gyms. So they're very adept with that process. And just everything that you have going on in the gym is disclosed to us in the application, becomes part of your policy, and that's it.
Now, is it best practices, theoretically, if I add something new, if I add that juice bar, or I start adding a line of supplements, literally all I have to do if I'm one of your clients is call you and just say, oh, by the way, we added this, right?
Yep. That's it. Yep.
And then Hannah or somebody on the phone will go, no, stop. Well, hopefully they won't do that.
But we have had situations where Jim, they'll add a bounce house outside their facility, a play area bounce house, which is not health and fitness. That's entertainment.
Ooh,
and
okay.
and kids, that's a whole different set of underwriting. We can still cover it, but without disclosing that knowledge, it could run into some problems.
And we'll be right back with our interview of Ken Reinig right after this.
Are you a chiropractor or physical therapist working long hours, worrying about lower repayments and missing out on quality time with your family? You can double your income without working more hours by adding a gym to your practice. Clinic Gym Hybrid Solutions has a step-by-step guide that dramatically simplifies and speeds up the addition of a fitness center and its monthly recurring revenue. In just 6 months, you can be on your way to freedom. Visit clinicgymhybrid.com today for a free downloadable PDF and complimentary consultation to get you started. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.
So a lot of people hire some trainers out of a big box gym, and they're independent contractors there, and they come in with say they're certified by the NSCA or NASM, and they get their NASM has that. It's a great special. It's like $200 a year for insurance for these trainers if they're working independently at a big box gym. Does that have any effect on how we want to insure our people?
No, because if we're doing it right and we're setting them up as employees, you don't need to require them to provide evidence of insurance from their organization. The nice thing, it's kind of a double-edged sword, but we don't require that a trainer be certified. As long as you're not professing or advertising the fact that all your trainers are ACE certified or all of them are NASM certified. Mm-hmm. We don't want to hang that responsibility and requirement on our club owner, because then he's saddled with the expectation to verify that their trainer's certified, that they're keeping up with their continuing education and blah, blah, blah. We don't want to get into a problem where somebody gets hurt and you find out that the trainer lied and the club owner's now responsible because he thought he had a certified trainer. It turns out he doesn't, but we don't want the club owner to go down because of that. So right. We don't make it a requirement. We make it a recommendation so that it doesn't affect his liability if things get, if it fall between the cracks or we didn't get an updated certification.
Right. Let me tell you a story. I have a buddy who graduated as an exercise physiologist from a very good program that teaches a lot of training. And they said, hey, at the end of this program, you'll be certified by, I can't remember, NASM, let's just say. Well, he graduated college and quickly moved across the country. And when he did that, you have to still fill out a form and send in a check to the NASM to get your actual certification. So for about 4 months, and a little more than that, he thought he was certified by NASM because in his mind, hey, I completed the classes, I graduated, this is all included. And so he gets a job as a trainer and he says, I have my NASM certification, gets hired. 3 weeks in, they said, hey, we still need the certificate form. He contacts the NASM and they basically say, who are you? We've never heard of you. And and so it put him in a sticky situation employment-wise. But luckily, you guys over at the Reinig Insurance Solutions have basically said that can happen. Or the other thing is, somebody comes in with an ACE certification and they're a great trainer. I don't want to say like, well, listen, we only hire NSCA people. Yeah, exactly. Go get your NSCA license. It's like, well, dude, that's a lot of hours and cost for, let's be honest, for nothing. Yeah,
it's a racket. I think we all understand that. And I'd rather have a guy who graduated with an engineering degree, but also minored in exercise physiology, and he gets health and fitness. He gets it, and he's a good trainer. I don't care if he's certified. He has had the education. He's great with clients. I'd rather hire attitude over accomplishment any day of the week anyway. So You know, you could have the best trainer in the world, and actually, with the more certifications they have behind their name, the more pain in the ass they are. Because then they think that you're working for them instead of the other way around. So I don't want somebody who knows it all.
Yeah. Now, are there any certifications everybody should have, like specifically CPR, first aid, AED? And do you guys have any recommendations to kind of maybe help with lowering some costs along those lines?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, the whole industry is moving to the standard is everyone should be CPR, AED certified, period. But you can get those certifications now online, believe it or not. You don't have to go through your local fire department or, specialty companies that charge you an arm and a leg to get everybody certified. You can do it online. Well,
actually, they're CPR companies, so they charge an arm, leg, and a chest compression to get you certified. It's more expensive.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we just want the basics. We want somebody who knows how to dial 911, who knows where the AED is located, and who can open the box and follow strict instructions 1, 2, 3. They really are the AED machines that are available today. Literally, they're 18-year-old and aerobic instructor proof. So anybody can.
Well, let me ask you this: is that a requirement of most of your policies now that there is an AED on site? Because those things are another $1,000, right?
Yeah, they're down around the $750 range, but it is an expense. There are some 19 states that require it now. So I can't remember all of them offhand, but that's where the industry's headed. And as I said earlier, it's the standard now. So I think it's just part of your business.
You just got to have it.
Yeah. You just got to have it. Because if you're not required to today, the law is going to be passed and you won't even know it passed. And you're going to be required. And ignorance is not any different.
Yeah.
Just get it.
Yeah. We, when we built our space, we were required by our local municipality to have a drinking fountain in the space. And you got to have a drinking fountain now, and those aren't cheap, and you got to have an AED. It's just, you should be included in the cost basically of your construction, right? Budgeted in construction.
Yep. It's part of all your tenant improvements costs and contents and budget.
Anything else that might help us kind of stay legal and reduce our policies? Go ahead.
Another thing that everyone should invest in is digital surveillance. It is so important now.
So you're saying having cameras and everything that's recording everything that's going on? Everything.
Yep. You'll not only... It's a great deterrent from lawsuits because cameras don't lie. And 50% of every claim we see is what we call member malfunction. The member has done something stupid and they hurt themselves. Well, if it's caught on camera, whether they're not paying attention, they get thrown off the back of a treadmill, they drop a weight on their foot, they, do something crazy with a lat pull down. It wasn't designed to do, but they did it on their own. All those stupid things are caught on video. Away go the attorneys. It just doesn't lie. Conversely, if it shows that the club was negligent, your insurance company can then make the determination, let's settle this quickly because we're caught. We got to pay. And so it still saves costs. Instead of dragging out legal fees for 4 years, the insurance company can make an informed decision right at the time, and everybody saves money. And if the club owner was responsible, hey, that's what you have insurance for. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. We had a group of, and these surveillance kits now are, $500 will get you for 5,000 square feet. Will probably cover you with your cameras and everything you need, right? I mean, they're not super expensive anymore.
No, you can get them at Costco now, great system, 16 camera systems with 2-week hard drive recording loop. So that if something does happen, you just go to that incident, you download it to your thumb drive, and you always keep it off the hard drive that way. because every claim that's going to happen, you're likely going to know about it within the day or two after it's happened. But just to be safe, get a camera that has a 2-week backup. And
that way, when you're out at the Bahamas and something happens with an employee, you have time to get back, right?
Yep, right. Okay. And that's the other beautiful thing is you can be out at the Bahamas monitoring your gym. Your employees are actually going to work because they know they're on camera.
Right.
And
especially when you call them on a random Wednesday and be like, hey, David, I thought you were trying to lose weight. And I see on the camera here, you're eating pepperoni pizza in the back.
Yeah, there you go. Or like most gyms, I always laugh. I said, if you ever wanted to kill all the staff at a gym, just throw a hand grenade behind the front counter. Because nobody will be out on the floor working. Nobody will be out cleaning. Nobody will be out, interacting with the members. They're all going to be bullshitting and playing with their phones at the front counter.
Yeah, so there you go. Is that something else to invest in? Is a one of those cell phone scramblers? That would really drive up production, right?
Now that we brought that up, though, we've just recently come out with some nice guidelines involving social media. That is in writing that you should have all of your employees sign, so they're not posting stuff that they shouldn't be. Because they represent your club both while they're on premises. And if they're doing something stupid and posting stuff on Facebook that is detrimental to the image that you're trying to create, you now have a policy that's in writing, and now you have grounds for dismissal because they agree to these various social media guidelines and policies that I'd be happy to share with your listeners. Whoever wants it, they can just contact me at kentheinsuranceguy.com, ken@theinsuranceguy.com.
Okay, we'll throw that link in the show notes too, so people can click on it.
Sounds good.
Now, along those lines, real quick question. So let's say tell me how this situation should be handled. Because a friend of mine has a gym and this happened to him. So, during class one day, all the members are meeting up and it's a Thursday and everybody's kind of talking about, hey, what a great workout, high-fiving. And they say, what are you doing? What are you guys doing this weekend? You're just making small talk. And the trainer says, oh, I'm hiking. And around here, there's Mount Charleston. So it's a pretty tall mountain around us. So I'm hiking Mount Charleston. Anybody want to go? So a few people go, right? And they say, yeah, I'll meet you up. Where are we meeting? So 6 a.m., they all meet up. Now they're hiking. Yep. One of the gym members is out there hiking up, coming down, and she slips and sprains her ankle. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Now, her argument was, well, I thought this was a gym event because, the trainer invited me and we were all there together in the gym, blah, blah. And the trainer said, no, I was just hiking because I wanted to hike. Like I didn't have a uniform on or anything. How would you, are there protections for that kind of stuff? And how would you handle that? And what should you do with offsite activities? Can you go into that a little bit?
Yep. With our policies, those kind of events are protected if they are sponsored by the club. Like you said, if a trainer does it on their own, and the person just makes an assumption that this is a club event, we're going to cover you and defend it. We'll probably not try to pay that claim because it was not a club-sponsored event. But regardless, we're going to protect the club owner. That being said, if you're going to do offsite events, you should have everyone sign a special event waiver. It goes a little beyond the regular waiver, and it's a pure acknowledgement that this member or this participant or this guest now understands that they're signing a separate waiver because we're going to go do something offsite. And it just strengthens our defense if and when litigation does arise. But we're going to cover you either way. These are all just risk management techniques and services that we provide to our clients that we help you through those processes. So,
right. But when we go back to that State Farm or American Family or, local farmers guy, a lot of times there are not, that can go unnoticed, right?
Yeah, it'll go unnoticed, but their policies clearly state that they are only covering the square footage in those 4 walls. That's it. If you even go do a lunging out in the parking lot, you're not going to be covered.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good to know. So once again, that's why we use Ken and his team. They're just great. They understand this business. Now, last thing you just talked about, and then we'll wrap it up, but you just talked about have them sign a special waiver, right?
Uh-huh.
And one of the things when you start a gym, it's really hard to get a hold of some good paperwork, right? Some forms on the front end.
Right.
Because a lot of times you don't want to make them up yourself. And if you go to LegalZoom, they're not that good. And let's be honest, nobody wants to hire an attorney if we can avoid it, right? Like they're overpaid. True. They're drinking martinis on our dime. We don't want them. We don't want to give them any extra money. If somebody has a policy with you, do you provide some of that early paperwork and recommendations as to what to sign?
We provide all of that. Not only the waivers and special event forms, but we give you an complete safety risk management manual. Gives you step-by-step instructions on what to do when somebody gets hurt. When you have a property claim, don't throw stuff away if it's broken, or, just little hints and stuff. It's very easy to follow, very easy to read. And as part of the risk management we do with our insurance carriers, we tell them that we're providing our clients with the waivers. This is the waiver they're going to use. And that's a whole different game, because most people have third-party collection companies now, like ABC Financial. And by the way, my company wrote the waiver for both ABC and ASF. So the two biggest collecting companies for billing already use our waiver. But I guess my point is, and I didn't want to get too far off track, is yes, we give them all the materials they'll ever need for risk management and keeping their gym safe.
And it has all the language that needs to occur within that for the policy to actually be in effect, right?
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, again, that's one thing that I think the local, farmers guy is not going to provide, because they just don't
even know what to provide. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll just be a cocktail napkin with a crayon drawing on it. And this is not what you want. You want to deal with somebody serious like Ken. Well, Ken, I'll put your contact information in the show notes, but any other tips for gym owners? So this is somebody that's, they got a clinic running. They're just going to add a gym. Any suggestions before they get started?
No, just take time with me before you even sign the lease. That's where risk management starts, because we even help in doing that. We'll analyze your lease, let you know if your landlord's smoking pot and they're requiring way too much in the way of liability or things to do with the building that you have no control over, but you are contractually obligating yourself to fix, repair.
Yeah, I'll tell you one story. Your girl Hannah pulled out the fact that we were responsible for all the repairs on her HVAC unit. And out here in Vegas, you cannot operate without air conditioning in the summer. I mean, it's like physically impossible.
Right.
And so she asked us, hey, do you want to add it was such a low amount every month, and we'll insure those things. And I was like, absolutely. Because if one of those craps out, that's $10,000, out here. And we had two of them on the roof. So that's one of those things that's, they're really a full service joint. And I really appreciate. So Ken, people can reach out to you if they have any questions, right? Set up some time.
Not a problem. Put down my contact information. It's much easier to reach me through my email. And then we can set up conference calls and have the same kind of come to Jesus meeting that you and I had when you became our client. And it's all a great process, and they're going to go away not only knowing that they're well protected, but they're going to save money too, because this is all we do. So,
and there is no better feeling in the world than when you've already paid for coverage and somebody hits you up and you just say, hey, here's the person's details, deal with them, and you guys take it from there. It's a pretty good feeling. Yeah. Well, Ken, now there's a little special thing about Ken is he is known as the singing insurance guy. Is there anywhere where people can see one of your music videos or a song?
If you just go to YouTube and go the singing insurance guy, you'll probably find me.
Not too many insurance guys with that can sing, and not too many of them can hold a decent conversation like Ken has. So,
well, I appreciate that, Josh. So. Yeah.
Well, listen, Ken, it's been a little slice of heaven. I really appreciate all the knowledge you've kind of given people here. Obviously, your office is a great resource in this space. It's the only office I know that specializes in these tiny little gyms, and I really appreciate you being with us today. Yeah. So on behalf of Ken Reinig and the Reinig Insurance Group, this is Dr. Josh Satterley for Clinic Gym Radio saying go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Clinic Gym Radio. If you're ready to double your profit without working longer hours, please visit clinicgymhybrid.com and find out how easy it is to get started on your path to freedom. That's clinicgymhybrid.com.